Hello, welcome back to the channel. So Star Isle has a lot of bosses now, and I would say most of them are pretty good and, enjoyable to fight. However, there are some that are a bit more just on the annoying side, and I feel like do have some problems with them. So I wanted to kind of look at some of the ones that are generally rather disliked or just hated, honestly, and see why most people don't really like them. Now, I do want to say that I am mainly talking about their versions in the endgame modes, like MOC, because the versions of them in the story are all pretty easy. I feel like that's not really a fair assessment of them. But I think that the first one that I want to talk about, I think it's just bad, regardless of the circumstance, which is Cirrus. I think Cirrus is bad, not because she's hard, or actually that annoying. It's because she just isn't an actual boss. She's just a glorified pure fiction fight. Like, the only thing that Cirrus actually does is advance the enemy's action and increase their damage by a bit. Besides that, it really just feels like you're just fighting normal enemies with a slight buff that just continuously spawn until the boss's HP is depleted. Like, I can understand what they were trying to go for, right? Because, Cirrus is a ghost, and, the main thing that she does is possessing. But the way they went around it is it's just the most boring thing possible. I think that maybe if they had maybe, 3 enemies spawned, but they were, super buffed, so it actually felt more like an actual fight, I can maybe understand it. And I think just the quartet of the robots, I forget what it's called, just does this idea, but just way better. And even then, that boss still isn't, amazing either. I also think this is kind of why they don't really use her that much anymore, because they know that people just don't really like fighting her, because she's just really boring. And also, she just doesn't really work in most of the content, like in Apocalypse Shadow, it's mainly based around breaking, but you can't break Cirrus because she just has a bunch of random enemies, so it doesn't really work there. The only place you can maybe put her is in MOC, but I kind of hope that they don't do that. But anyway, moving on to an actual boss, which people basically complained about since he came out, which is Hool. He is arguably the most hated boss in the whole game, and I can understand why. He is just really annoying to fight. I'm pretty sure he is the fastest out of all of the bosses. He attacks so much. And because a lot of the minions that he summons are also really fast, sometimes it just feels like you just get attacked before you can do anything and you just die. On top of that, because of how Moon Rage works, him and the minions also become a lot faster, and he also has a lot of AoE, so it's just pretty hard for most characters to be able to keep up with how much he attacks and how much damage. And he also applies a debuff, which isn't that bad, but there are some times where you just can't really deal with it, so you just get debuffed, even though if you're using a healer or something, they're gonna have a cleanse anyway, so it shouldn't be that bad. Now, me personally, I don't hate Hool as much as a lot of other people seem to. I just think that he's really annoying. That's the main thing, because you're just getting hit constantly over and over again. I think that the main problem with Hool is that there's not that many things that actually counter him, because his main counter is, characters that attack fast and attack a lot, mainly follow-up, which, they don't really make many follow-up characters anymore. So if you didn't have follow-up before, you probably don't now. And the other thing that mainly counters him is shields. The problem is that, one, we barely have any shield characters at all, and the only really actually good shield character is Adventurine. So there's only really one actually good sustained character that counters him. But honestly, if you have Adventurine, Hool is kind of a free fight. Since he will just continuously attack you, and especially with his AoE, Adventurine will just keep reapplying the shield because you will just get so many stacks and you will just never take damage. But the problem is that not everyone has Adventurine, and the other shield options are just way too slow to actually be helpful in the fight. I think that if they maybe just tone down how much he attacks by a bit, not by that much, because he should, the main point of him is to be, the fast boss. And I think the thing that kind of makes up for how much he attacks is that he does a bit less damage than some other bosses, because he's mainly about, just hitting you constantly. But right now, it's not that hard. It's just really annoying to fight. The main problem with this kind of design is that there are just some times where you're just not going to be able to do anything and you just die. Anyway, moving on from Hool is another boss that I think has a very similar problems to him, just not as bad, which is the Flame Reaver. Like Hool, he attacks a lot. But unlike him, he also hits really hard. And because he constantly spawns clones, making him do even more damage. Now, I don't think this would be that bad if there were more time between his attacks. Because right now you're mainly only going to get maybe 2 characters to go, and then he's just going to attack again immediately. Like, I think that if a boss is going to attack a lot, then they should have lower damage so you don't just get one shot. But right now, it's like if you can't kill the shadows immediately, you will sometimes just straight up die. Now, I will say I do kind of like the new version that they made of him a bit more, because it feels like a bit more of just an interesting fight with the way that the phases work, and also I think just has a bit more counterplay to it, because once he goes into his second phase, you only gotta worry about, killing the shadows because he becomes untargetable. But he still kind of has the problem of, I think, having a bit too high of damage. Like, you should want to actually, kill the shadows, but it shouldn't be so detrimental that you don't kill the shadows that you just straight up die sometimes, Now, I don't think that you, needing AoE to beat it is that bad, since, unlike a lot of other restrictions for some bosses, a lot of characters now have AoE. My main problem is that it really just feels like he was kind of designed to be beaten with Herda or Casterus, because he's weak to Ice and Quantum, and there's not that many AoE Ice and Quantum characters. I think that if they either just made the interval between when he attacks bigger, or if they just lowered his damage a bit, I think he would be fine. Now, the last boss I want to talk about is one where I think that the new version that they gave him is actually a lot better, being the Adventurine boss. I remember so many people hating this boss when he came out, which I can kind of understand why, since the dice before were a lot different, since the points that it used to give were based on each character, it wasn't cumulative. So if you had a single target character or a support, they were almost guaranteed to get hit, which, didn't really exactly feel that great to fight. And like a lot of bosses in this video, would sometimes just put you in situations where you can't do anything. The new version, I think, is a lot better since the score is now cumulative, so you just need to get a high enough score in a certain amount of time so that you don't just take a lot of damage. But I think it's a lot better since supports are just almost guaranteed to get hit, and allows a lot more characters to be good against him, and you don't just need AoE to hit all the dice. At the end of the day, besides maybe Cirrus, I don't think that any of these bosses shouldn't be in the game, because I do think they are at least somewhat enjoyable to fight. But I do think they could maybe use some tuning and some more maybe newer versions of their fights. Like if they gave Hool a new version like Adventurine, I do think he could maybe be a bit more enjoyable to fight. Because right now it does kind of feel like, especially at the super high levels, it's like you either kill him in one rotation, or you just get hit a million times and you just die. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.